I should have kept walking. That's what any sane person would have done. It was past midnight, snow falling in thick sheets that turned the alley behind my apartment building into a maze of shadows and ice. I was exhausted from my shift at the convenience store, my fingers numb even inside my gloves, and all I wanted was to collapse into bed. But then I saw him. At first, I thought it was just a pile of trash bags. Then the pile moved and I heard it, a low, pained groan that made my omega instincts flare with unwanted concern. I stopped, my heartbeat suddenly loud in my ears. Hello. My voice came out smaller than I intended. The pile shifted again, and I saw a hand, large, masculine, covered in blood that looked black against the white snow. My stomach dropped. Every rational thought screamed at me to run, call the police, do anything except get involved. I'd spent 3 years in Seoul specifically avoiding alphas, avoiding trouble, avoiding anything that could disrupt the careful, quiet life I'd built. But I couldn't just leave someone to die in the snow. I approached slowly, my breath forming clouds in the freezing air. When I got close enough, I could finally see him properly. An alpha, I could tell even before I caught his scent, winter pine mixed with gunpowder and blood. He was face down in the snow, wearing a dark jacket soaked through with melting ice and something darker. His black hair was matted with blood. Can you hear me? I crouched down, keeping my distance. I'm going to call an ambulance. His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. His eyes opened, sharp and dark even through obvious pain. No hospitals, he rasped. They'll find me. You've been shot. You need. No hospitals. His grip tightened, and despite his condition, his alpha presence rolled over me like a wave. My omega instincts reacted immediately, my body wanting to submit, to obey. I hated that instinct. I'd fought against it for years. I yanked my hand back. Then you'll die here. Better than the alternative. His eyes started to close again. I stood there for a full minute, having an argument with myself. The smart choice was obvious. Walk away. This man was clearly involved in something dangerous. Why else would he refuse a hospital? Getting involved with an alpha, especially one running from something, was the worst possible decision I could make. But my hands were already moving, checking his pulse, assessing the damage. The bullet wound was in his side, still bleeding but not arterial. If I could get him inside, stop the bleeding, maybe he'd survive the night. This is so stupid, I muttered, hooking my arms under his shoulders. You're probably a criminal. You're definitely trouble. And I'm definitely going to regret this. Getting him up 3 flights of stairs to my studio apartment was a nightmare. He was easily twice my size, drifting in and out of consciousness, and every time he leaned his weight on me, my omega instincts went haywire. His scent was overwhelming, this close, dangerous and magnetic in a way that made my hands shake. I finally managed to drag him inside and onto my couch, my muscles screaming in protest. My apartment was tiny, just one room with a kitchenette and a bathroom smaller than a closet, but at least it was warm. I grabbed every towel I owned and my pathetically small first aid kit. This is going to hurt, I warned him, though I wasn't sure he could hear me anymore. I'd never removed a bullet before. My knowledge came entirely from internet searches I frantically pulled up on my phone, my hands shaking as I sterilized a pair of tweezers over my stove. The actual process was worse than any video had prepared me for. The alpha barely conscious but still groaning in pain, blood everywhere, my stomach churning with nausea. But I got it out. I cleaned the wound, bandaged it as best I could, and gave him the strongest painkillers I had. Then I collapsed onto my floor, adrenaline finally crashing, and stared at the unconscious alpha bleeding on my couch. What have I done? He woke up the next morning while I was getting ready for work. I heard him groan and turned to find those dark eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made me freeze. You saved my life, he said, his voice rough but stronger than last night. I found you in the snow. I wasn't just going to let you die. Most people would have. He tried to sit up and immediately winced, his hand going to his bandaged side. What's your name? Jaiwon. Lee Jaiwon. I hesitated. And you are? Hajuan. The pause. Just Hajuan. Something about the way he said it made it clear that was all the information I'd get. I should have pressed, should have demanded answers, but part of me didn't want to know. Knowing would make everything more real, more dangerous. The week that followed was the strangest of my life. Ha-Jun recovered slowly, and I found myself in a bizarre routine. I'd go to work, come home to find him a little stronger each day. He was careful around me, too careful. He never let his alpha presence slip, never made demands, never touched me without warning first. It was unsettling how gentle he could be. On the third day, I came home to find my broken heater fixed. On the fourth, he'd somehow acquired groceries, expensive ones, and cooked dinner. On the fifth, I caught him doing my dishes, moving stiffly because of his wound but determined. "You don't have to do this," I said. "You saved my life. This is the least I can do." He turned to face me, and something in his expression made my heart skip. "You're different from what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Fear. Most Omegas would be terrified, alone with an injured alpha. I should be terrified, I thought. But somehow I wasn't. Not of him, anyway. On the seventh night, I woke to find him standing by my window, fully dressed, his wound apparently healed enough to move properly. My heart sank. "You're leaving." He turned, and in the dim light from the street, his face was unreadable. "I've stayed too long already. It's not safe for you if I'm here." "Safe from what?" He walked over, stopped just close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. "Thank you, Jaiwan. For everything. I won't forget this." "That's not an answer." "I know." He reached out, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture was so tender it made my breath catch. "Stay safe. Please." Then he was gone, slipping out into the night like he'd never been there at all. I stood in my empty apartment, staring at the couch where he'd spent the last week, and felt an unexpected ache in my chest. I told myself it was relief. It had to be relief. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. That somehow, saving Yoon Ha-Jun had changed everything, and I just didn't know it yet. 2 months passed, and I almost convinced myself it had been a dream. Almost. But sometimes I'd catch that scent of winter pine on the wind and my heart would stutter. Sometimes I'd wake up reaching for someone who wasn't there. I threw myself into work, picking up extra shifts at the convenience store, anything to stop thinking about dark eyes and gentle hands that had no right belonging to someone so dangerous. Life returned to normal. Boring, safe, predictable normal. Until the night they came for me. It was a quiet Tuesday evening. The store was empty except for me and the usual salaryman buying beer and instant noodles. I was restocking cigarettes behind the counter when the door chimed. 3 men walked in. Not customers, I knew that immediately. They moved wrong, their eyes scanning the store with predatory focus. All alphas. All wearing expensive suits that didn't match the cheap fluorescent lighting of my workplace. My Omega instincts screamed danger. "Lee Jaiwan." The one in front smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He had a scar running down his cheek, disappearing into his collar. "The store closes in 10 minutes, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "If you need something, we need you to come with us." He stepped closer to the counter. "You helped someone who didn't belong to you. That's a problem." My blood ran cold. "Ha-Jun." They were talking about Ha-Jun. "I don't know what you're talking about." I reached slowly for my phone under the counter. The scarred man was faster. He lunged across the counter and grabbed my wrist, yanking me forward. Pain shot through my arm as he twisted it behind my back. I cried out, my phone clattering to the floor. "Don't play stupid. 2 months ago, you patched up Yoon Ha-Jun. We have witnesses who saw you dragging him into your building." His breath was hot against my ear, his alpha scent overwhelming and wrong. "That makes you leverage. And we're going to use you to draw that bastard out." Terror flooded through me. I struggled, but he was so much stronger. The other 2 alphas moved closer, blocking any escape route. One of them flipped the store sign to closed and locked the door. "Please," I gasped. "I just helped someone who was hurt. I didn't know who he was." "You should have left him to bleed out." The scarred man started dragging me toward the back exit. "Now you're going to..." The front window exploded. Glass rained down like deadly snowflakes as men in black suits poured through the shattered opening. They moved with military precision, and suddenly my attackers were on the defensive. Gunshots rang out, impossibly loud in the small space. I screamed, dropping to the floor as chaos erupted around me. Someone grabbed me, and I fought on instinct until I heard a familiar voice. "Stop fighting. I've got you." I looked up into Ha-Juin's face. He looked completely different from the bleeding man I'd found in the snow. His black suit was immaculate, his hair styled back, his presence commanding in a way that made every alpha in the room instinctively shrink back. But his eyes, those were the same. Dark and intense and fixed on me with something that might have been relief. "Are you hurt?" His hands moved over me, checking for injuries with surprising gentleness despite the violence happening around us. No, I don't think." My voice broke. "What's happening? Who are you?" His jaw tightened. "We need to leave. Now." He pulled me to my feet and toward the door, his body positioned protectively between me and the fighting. His men had subdued my attackers with brutal efficiency. The scarred man was on his knees, blood streaming from his nose, surrounded by guns pointed at his head. "Boss." One of Ha-Juin's men looked at him expectantly. "Take them to the warehouse. I'll deal with them later." Ha-Juin's voice was cold, nothing like the careful gentleness he'd shown in my apartment. "Make sure they understand what happens when someone touches what's mine." "What's mine?" The words sent a chill down my spine. Outside, a sleek black car waited. Ha-Juin guided me into the back seat, sliding in beside me. The door closed, muffling the sound of sirens approaching in the distance. The driver pulled away smoothly, as if we hadn't just left a crime scene behind. I was shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me cold and confused and terrified. "Who are you?" "Yoon Ha-Juin." He loosened his tie slightly. "Head of the Yoon family." The name hit me like a physical blow. Even I, who avoided anything to do with the criminal underworld, had heard of the Yoon family. They controlled half of Seoul's underground, running everything from protection rackets to smuggling operations. They were dangerous, untouchable, ruthless, and I'd had their leader bleeding on my couch for a week. Oh God. I pressed my hands to my face. Oh God, oh God. "Jaiwon, look at me." His hand touched my shoulder and I flinched. He pulled back immediately, something pained flashing across his face. "I'm sorry. I never wanted you involved in this. But I am involved." I looked at him, anger cutting through the fear. "Those men came after me because I helped you. They were going to use me as bait. This is your fault." "Yes." He didn't try to deny it. "That's why I'm taking you somewhere safe." Safe? I was safe. I had a normal life, a quiet life, and you, my voice cracked. "You need to let me out of this car right now." "I can't do that. You don't own me. You can't just." "Kim Mi-ho's men know who you are now." His voice was firm but not unkind. "The ones we captured tonight won't talk, but there are others. Kim won't stop until he's used you to get to me. Your normal life ended the moment you pulled me out of that snow." The truth of his words settled over me like ice water. I thought of the scarred man's hands on me, his promise to use me as leverage. I thought of the violence I'd just witnessed, the casual way Ha-Juin had ordered men to be taken to a warehouse for interrogation. "So what happens now?" I whispered. "You just keep me prisoner? I keep you alive." He leaned forward, catching my eyes. "I owe you my life, Jaiwon. That's a debt I take seriously. I won't let anyone hurt you because of me. I don't want your protection. I want my life back." "Then I'm sorry." He looked away, jaw tight. "Because that's not something I can give you anymore." The car pulled up to a towering building in Gangnam, all glass and steel and luxury that screamed money and power. Ha-Juin's men were waiting at the entrance. As we walked through the lobby, me still in my convenience store uniform, him in his expensive suit, I realized the horrible truth. I wasn't a guest here. I was a prisoner in a gilded cage. And the man I'd saved, the man who'd been so careful and gentle with me, was the one holding the key. The penthouse was beautiful and I hated it. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. The furniture probably cost more than I'd earned in my entire life. Everything was sleek, modern, perfect. And none of it was mine. I was a bird in a golden cage, and every luxury felt like another bar trapping me inside. 3 weeks had passed since that night at the convenience store. 3 weeks of guards outside my door, of carefully prepared meals I didn't ask for, of Ha-Jun watching me with those dark eyes like he was trying to solve a puzzle he couldn't quite figure out. I barely spoke to him. What was there to say? But avoidance only worked until the night I heard the screaming. It was past midnight. I'd been lying awake, staring at the ceiling of the guest room Ha-Jun had given me, when I heard it, a man's voice, raw with pain, coming from somewhere below. My Omega instincts reacted immediately, my body flooding with anxiety even as my mind tried to rationalize it away. I shouldn't have left my room. I should have stayed in bed, pulled the pillow over my head, pretended I heard nothing. Instead, I found myself padding down the hallway in bare feet, following the sound to a door I'd been told never to open. The basement. My hand trembled as I turned the handle. The stairs descended into darkness. The screaming had stopped, replaced by Ha-Jun's voice, cold, controlled, dangerous. I'll ask you one more time. Who sent you? I don't know anything, I swear. The sound of impact. A body hitting the floor. I should have run. Should have gone back upstairs and pretended I'd never heard anything. But something kept me moving forward, down those stairs, until I could see into the room below. Ha-Jun stood over a man tied to a chair, blood dripping from the prisoner's face. 2 of Ha-Jun's men flanked him, expressionless. The concrete floor was stained dark with old blood. This wasn't the first time this room had been used for this purpose. This was the real Yoon Ha-Jun. Not the careful man who'd done my dishes. Not the gentle alpha who'd touched me like I might break. This was a mafia boss, and violence was his language. I must have made a sound because Ha-Jun's head snapped up. His eyes found mine, and something like horror crossed his face. Jaewin. I ran. I made it back to my room and locked the door, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. This was real. The danger, the violence, the blood, it was all real, and I was living in the center of it. A knock came at my door 5 minutes later. Soft, almost hesitant. Jaewin, please open the door. Go away. I need to explain. I saw enough. My voice shook. I saw exactly who you are. Silence. Then, yes. You did. And I'm sorry you had to see it, but I won't apologize for what I am. This is my world. I tried to keep you separate from it, but I'm already drowning in it. I yanked the door open, anger overriding fear. You brought me here. You trapped me here. And now I get to see exactly what kind of monster I saved that night. His face remained carefully blank, but something flickered in his eyes. Pain maybe. Or guilt. That man in the basement tried to plant a bomb in this building. He would have killed everyone here, including you. So yes, I'm interrogating him. Yes, it's violent. That's the price of keeping you safe. I never asked you to keep me safe. I never asked for any of this. I know. His voice softened. But Kim Mi-ho's men are still looking for you. 2 days ago, they went to your old apartment. They tore it apart looking for information. If you'd been there. The words hit me like cold water. My apartment. My things. The life I'd built. You're lying. I wish I was. He pulled out his phone, showed me photos. My furniture overturned, my clothes scattered, my walls spray-painted with threats I couldn't bear to read. I felt something break inside me. I want to go home. You can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He reached toward me, then stopped himself. I'm sorry. I know you hate me for this, and you have every right to. But I meant what I said. I owe you my life, and I will keep you safe, even if you despise me for it. Days blurred together after that. I stopped fighting, stopped arguing. What was the point? I was trapped, and we both knew it. But something strange started happening. The more time I spent around Ha-Jun, the more I saw past the cold mafia boss exterior. He'd come home late with blood on his knuckles and exhaustion in his eyes. He'd sit in his study until dawn, handling problems I didn't want to know about. And sometimes, when he thought I wasn't looking, I'd catch him watching me with such raw longing it made my chest ache. One night, I found him on the balcony, staring out at the city. A cut on his cheek was still bleeding. "You're hurt," I said before I could stop myself. He touched his face absently. "It's nothing. Let me clean it." The words came out without permission. He turned to look at me, surprise clear in his expression. "You don't have to." "I know. But I'm going to anyway." I disappeared inside, returning with the first aid kit I'd found in the bathroom. My hands shook slightly as I dabbed at the cut with antiseptic. We were close. Too close. His scent, winter pine, now mixed with gunpowder and expensive cologne, made my omega instincts sing in a way I'd been trying desperately to ignore. "Why did you become this?" I asked quietly. "You could have been anything else." "No, I couldn't." His voice was raw. "I was born into the Yoon family. My father died when I was 12, and I inherited everything. The business, the territory, the enemies. I never had a choice. Everyone has a choice." "Do they?" His eyes met mine. "Did you have a choice when you found me in that alley?" The question hung between us. 'Cause he was right. I'd made my choice that night, and everything that followed was consequence. Just like he'd made his choices, and this life of violence and blood was his consequence. "I don't know how to hate you," I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. "I should. But I don't." His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing my cheek with devastating gentleness. "Jaiwin." My heat hit like a freight train. One moment I was fine, the next my body was on fire, my omega instincts screaming for an alpha, for his alpha. I gasped, stumbling back, but Hajuin caught me. "No," I managed. "Not like this. I won't." "I know." His voice was strained, his alpha instincts clearly warring with his control. "Your room. Lock the door. Don't come out until it passes." He practically carried me inside, then left immediately, closing the door between us. I heard him bark orders: "Clear the floor, no one comes near this hallway, get suppressants from the pharmacy now." I collapsed on the bed, my body shaking with need and my mind screaming in panic. This wasn't supposed to happen. I couldn't bond with him. I couldn't. The window shattered. Men in masks poured through, moving fast, grabbing me before I could even scream. A cloth pressed over my face, chemical sweet and suffocating. The world tilted sideways. The last thing I heard was Hajuin roaring my name, the sound of gunfire, and then nothing. I woke up in hell. I woke up to the smell of mildew and blood. My head throbbed where they'd hit me during the kidnapping. My wrists were bound behind my back, zip ties cutting into my skin. The room was dark except for a single bare bulb swinging overhead, casting shadows that made everything look like a nightmare. "He's awake." A voice I recognized, the scarred man from the convenience store. Kim Miho's lieutenant. He crouched in front of me, that same cold smile on his face. "Good. I want you alert for this." "For what?" My voice came out hoarse. "For when Yoon Hajuin comes to save you." He grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. "And we kill him right in front of you. You're the bait, little Omega. The weakness in his armor. He'll come, and he'll die, and Kim Miho will finally take control of Seoul." Fear turned my blood to ice. "He won't come. I'm not important to him." "Liar." The scarred man laughed. "We've been watching. We know how he looks at you. We know he cleared an entire floor of his building just to keep you comfortable during your heat. Yoon Hajuin doesn't do that for people who don't matter." He was right and we both knew it. Hajuin would come. And these men would be ready. Hours passed. Maybe days, I couldn't tell in the windowless room. They gave me water but no food. My heat was getting worse, my body burning with need, making everything harder. I tried to stay alert, tried to find a way to escape, but the zip ties were too tight and there were always guards outside. Then I heard it. Gunfire. Shouting. The sounds of a war zone getting closer. The scarred man burst into the room, gun in hand, his confidence replaced by panic. He brought an army. Half our men are already dead. He grabbed me, hauling me to my feet. "You're coming with me." You're my insurance policy. He dragged me through corridors that smelled like rust and fear. More gunshots echoed through the building. Bodies lay scattered, Kim Mi-ho's men, taken down with brutal efficiency. This wasn't a rescue operation. This was a massacre. We emerged into a warehouse space, massive and filled with shipping containers. The scarred man pulled me behind one, using me as a shield, his gun pressed against my temple. Yoon, he screamed into the darkness. I know you're here. I have your Omega. Come out or I'll paint these walls with his brains. Silence. Then footsteps, slow and deliberate. Ha-Jun emerged from the shadows, and I barely recognized him. His suit was torn and bloody. His face was covered in cuts. But his eyes, they burned with a fury I'd never seen before. Behind him, dozens of his men fanned out, weapons trained on us. Let him go, Park. Ha-Jun's voice was deadly calm. This is between you and me. That's where you're wrong. The scarred man, Park, pressed the gun harder against my head. I whimpered despite myself. This is about Kim Mi-ho taking what should have been his all along. And you? You're soft now. All because of this Omega. Last chance. Release him. Or what? You'll shoot? You might hit your precious. Ha-Jun moved faster than I thought possible. The gunshot rang out, but it wasn't from Park's weapon. Park's hand, the one holding the gun, exploded in blood and bone. He screamed, releasing me, and I dropped to the ground as chaos erupted. Ha-Jun's men swarmed forward. I heard Park screaming, begging, but Ha-Jun walked past his men and grabbed the injured lieutenant by the throat. You touched what's mine. Ha-Jun's voice was barely human. You threatened him. You took him from me. Each word was punctuated with violence I couldn't watch. When it was over, Park wasn't screaming anymore. Then Ha-Jun was on his knees beside me, his bloodied hands shaking as he cut through my zip ties. Jaewon. God, Jaewon, are you hurt? Did they? I'm okay. I was crying and didn't know when I'd started. Came. You actually came. Of course I came. He pulled me against his chest, and I felt him trembling. I would burn this entire city to the ground to get you back. Don't you understand that? We stayed like that for a long moment, surrounded by violence and death, holding on to each other like lifelines. The aftermath was a blur. Ha-Jun carried me to his car despite my protests that I could walk. His men were already cleaning up, making the evidence disappear like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Because they had. Back at the penthouse, I finally crashed. The adrenaline, the fear, the heat still burning through my system, it all hit at once. I collapsed on the couch and Ha-Jun was there, pressing water into my hands, checking every inch of me for injuries. I'm sorry. His voice cracked. This is my fault. All of it. If I just stayed away from you that night, if I died in that alley like I was supposed to. Don't. I grabbed his hand. Don't say that. You should hate me. You should want nothing to do with me. I've ruined your life, Jaewon. I've brought you nothing but danger and fear and you saved me. I met his eyes. Tonight you saved me. You came for me even though it was obviously a trap. You risked everything. Because you're worth everything. The confession came out raw and honest. I've tried to keep my distance. Tried to give you space. But the truth is I'm selfish and I want you, and I know I have no right. I kissed him. It wasn't planned. Wasn't smart. But my Omega instincts, my heat, my heart, they all wanted the same thing. He froze for a heartbeat, then kissed me back with desperate intensity. His hands were gentle despite the violence they'd committed hours ago. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I should leave, I whispered. You should help me disappear somewhere safe, somewhere far from Seoul and this life and all this blood. Is that what you want? I thought about my old apartment, destroyed. My old job, impossible to return to. My old life, gone forever the moment I'd pulled a bleeding alpha from the snow. That life was dead. But maybe, just maybe, a new one could be built from the ashes. No. The word felt like jumping off a cliff. I want to stay. But not as your prisoner. Not as something you need to protect and hide away. Then what? As your equal. Your partner. I took a shaky breath. I know your world now. I've seen the worst of it. And I'm choosing to stay anyway, but only if you let me really be part of it. No more locked doors. No more decisions made for me. Ha-Jun stared at me like I'd offered him something impossible. You understand what you're asking? This life, it's dangerous. There will always be enemies. Always be threats. I know. But I'd rather face them with you than be safe and alone. I touched his face, feeling the stubble, the cuts, the warmth of him. You said you owed me a debt. So repay it by treating me like I have a choice. Like I matter beyond just being something to protect. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe. Or hope. You matter more than you know. More than I should allow. He caught my hand, pressed a kiss to my palm. Partners. Equals. But if you're staying, there are things you need to learn. How to shoot. How to spot a tail. How to survive in this world. Then teach me. I will. Starting tomorrow. He pulled me closer and I let myself relax against him. But tonight, just let me hold you. Let me convince myself you're really here and safe. So I did. Outside, Seoul glittered in the darkness, beautiful and dangerous and full of threats I was choosing to face. Inside, wrapped in the arms of a man who was equal parts violence and tenderness, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. I felt like I was home. 3 months later, I stood beside Ha-Jun at a meeting with the other families, no longer hidden away but acknowledged as his partner. I'd learned to shoot, to read people, to navigate the dangerous politics of his world. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was mine, chosen freely, and that made all the difference. When Ha-Jun reached for my hand under the table, I squeezed back. We'd both been broken that night in the snow. But somehow, impossibly, we'd healed each other. And that was worth everything.